monolingual method of learning? If you could throw some light.
Okay, so first
May
of
I
all,
interrupt? Please, may I interrupt?
yes.
Debanjali Roy, you can ask this question via email also. We are sharing email IDs of all the
Okay.
participants. We have constraint in time here.
Sure, sir.
So,
Sure.
yeah, let us move ahead. Thank you, Sheena Angra, madam. Thanks a lot for
Okay,
your
thank you.
presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the question, Debanjali ma'am. I'll definitely revert you back.
Absolutely. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Thanks, all the participants. Uh, Now, I would like to invite paper ID 231, Dr. Pooja, who is present here. Dr. Pooja, are you available?
Yes, sir, I'm present here. Just a
Okay.
minute, I'm sharing my
So,
screen.
paper ID 231 is on beyond traditional classroom boundaries, adopting problem and project-based learning for a student-centering education revolution. Over to Dr. Pooja. Dr. Pooja, you can share your presentation. Maybe she is facing some problem. I will come back at the end for this presentation. Let me move ahead and go to paper ID 233, and paper ID 233 will be presented by Professor Dennis R. Naimli Jr. and F.K. Nyamu of Kenyatta University. Uh, Mr. Naimli, are you present?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Okay, so you can start your presentation.
Okay, allow me to share my screen.
Sure, you can share it now.
Okay. Okay. Is my screen visible?
Yes, it is visible.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you so much to the organizing team of this important gathering. My name is Dennis R. Nimle Jr. I am from Liberia, a student at Kenyatta University in Kenya. My supervisor is Dr. Florence K. Nyamu. So our research title is Investigating Teachers, Learner, Classroom Interaction, and its effect on learners' ability to solve world problems in secondary schools. Nakuru County, Kenya. This study was conducted in Nakuru County in Kenya. There's a county in Kenya called Nakuru. Introduction and background. So we with the symposium's theme of innovation, teacher learner classroom interaction is something that brings about innovation in the class, and studies have shown that it improve learners self-efficacy, it improve their self-confidence, and also brings motivation and so forth. So researchers have considered this teaching learning classroom interaction as one of the important aspects in the 21st century contemporary education we all and talk about. So it has been described as the exchange between teachers and students within the classroom that happens back and forth. Unlike before, we had a traditional learning where teacher is considered the source of information or the source of knowledge, and students only sit passively receive what the teacher gave. But now, as we move further in this 21st century education, we want the students' participation. So teacher-learner classroom interaction is one of those surest way of bringing up the innovation we talk about. Now, in Kenya, the government of Kenya have actually put in a lot of innovation to help improve learners' performance. Learners' performance in mathematics or in the sciences or STEM education is one of the challenges around the globe. Researchers have shown that more studies have shown the poor performance of learners, and they have come up with ways to mitigate these conditions. So in Kenya, they introduced a project called the Strengthening Mathematics and Science in Secondary Education. And then they also introduced another one called the In-Service Education and Training and the Secondary Education Quality Improvement. All of these things are meant to improve the learner's performance in the sciences. Yet still, all of these things still bring, it still appear like nothing is happening. So students are still having low performance in the national exam. Here in Kenya is called the Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education, and it is always administered by the Kenya National Examination Council. But each year, learners are performing below the standard scale of the exam, which is 50% more. You have more learners performing below that. And these are findings that actually prompting many studies in this area, in this subject matter. So our study actually look at problem solving. Word problem solving is one of the challenges as mentioned by the report of this KCSE. Students are unable to solve the application problems that are given in text. So researchers are concerned what could be the possible and challenges students are faced with. So one of those things we looked at is the teacher-classroom interaction. How is this interaction bringing the innovation that will encourage the students or motivate the learners to build their ability in solving word problems? The study adopted the descriptive research survey design with qualitative and quantitative methods. So the study was conducted in a sub-county of Nakuru called Naivasha in Kenya. We sampled 328 participants, and that comprised of 318 Form 2. In Form 2 here is grade 10, as I know from the global standard, and then 10 mathematics teachers. So mathematics teachers and learners questionnaire were used in the data collection process. And then we also have a scheduled interview for the mathematics heads of department or the HOD, the MHOD. And then we observed the classroom where teachers were teaching to see if they had that participation between they and the students as to whether the teacher were allowing the students to work collaboratively. So that's what we did. Now, the results we got from the study, teachers acknowledge that learners' ability to solve word problem correlates with the classroom interaction between the teachers and the learners. So what this does, as we say, is it brings about self-confidence in the learners. So once the teacher relate to the student, in the classroom, it provides them that confidence of relating to the back to the teacher and also asking questions that are that are important for their learning. It gave them that confidence to explore or even move on by uh, 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 by trying some critical problems and coming up with maybe solutions and also being able to come to the teacher and ask. So teachers acknowledge that the interaction they and the students have in the classroom help the students in their word problem solving ability. Now, when we went at the head of departments through the interview, they confirmed that the teacher-learner classroom interaction brings about self-confidence, and it talks about improving learners' ability to solve problems. But there is one challenge that actually hinder this classroom interaction: class size. Unlike for other countries, here in Kenya, the minimum class size is at least 45 students or be above. So you have 60 to 75 students in a class, and the class size being that number, the teacher won't be able to have or introduce any form of collaborative learning where students can work in group or discuss in group or even solve problems in a group and do group presentation because of the number of students he or she have to deal with. So the class congestion became one of the challenges that prevent this collaborative method of teaching in the implementation of this teacher classroom interaction. Conclusion: the findings of the study show that the teacher-learner classroom interaction plays an important role in teaching and the learning process, as well as the ability of the learners to solve word problems. So this is very key to problem solving. We talked about innovation. We said innovation is actually based on problem solving. So how will the students be innovative? If if they have confidence in problem solving, that's how their skills in innovation will come in. Because one will not be able to develop anything beyond what they have learned if they don't have that confidence. And that confidence can only be built by the amount of motivation put into a classroom through the classroom interaction. Not wherein the student asks and then the teacher is finding it difficult to respond or even giving the students chance to interact in a classroom. We said the teacher-learner classroom interaction meets huge challenges, as we said, from the study local, and that is because the classes are more than the normal size. So we have about 40, we have more than 45 students in a class, which make it difficult for teachers to even collaborate. Even know the names of students is a challenge, as we observe from the data collection. So the innovation that global educationalists aspire could be achieved by the improvement of the teacher-learner classroom interaction. So once this aspect of the teaching is strengthened, then innovation will become to spring out. As we say, the teacher-learner classroom interaction brings about confidence, it brings about improvement, self-efficacy, and all of these things. So once we do that, it will actually help learners in a way of innovation. And we said this will enhance the ability of learners problem solving. Now, we recommended two things. So, that the government, through the Ministry of Education, reduce the number of students in the classroom from the current number to 45 students. This is a kind of challenging decision to be taken because it go along with funders, that of resources need to be put in building of new structures to accommodate those students that may be left out, all of these things. But we think that with this current dispensation, maybe it will also help. And then we recommend further research into this so that we can see what the effect of the class congestion on the ability for learners problem solving. Because this study actually did not go into how this affected learners. Instead, we're looking at how that interaction that happened between the teachers and the learners affect their problem solving skills. Thank you so much for the time.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Dennis, for wonderful presentation and the thought to improve students' ability to solve the problem. So I have a question here. You have considered the teacher-student interaction.
Yeah.
Did you plan any active learning strategies with that interaction or only interaction?
Okay, so the learning strategy is the collaborative learning. The collaborative learning strategy is one of those strategies we were looking at because the learner will be able to learn collaboratively between themselves and the teacher. So it's not only it's not only left with the students, but the teachers, guardians. So
Okay.
yeah.
So another question is, you are talking about solving a word problems like a descriptive or a scenario based questions, right? in the mathematics course.
Yeah.
So here, what is the cognitive level at which students solve the problems, and what Bloom's taxonomy these questions were framed?
Okay, so thank you for word problem solving. It cut across the levels of Bloom's taxonomy, remembered application, and so on. So for word problem solving, is actually at the analysis skill, because once the problem is given, the learners have to analyze what is given, know what the question requires before engaging the problem solving. So actually, it was at the analysis skill level. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dennis, for such a wonderful presentation on Indian education system. So we all were enriched with this knowledge. Next, I move on to paper ID 235. Paper ID 235. Mr. Saurabh, are you available?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, you can start your presentation. Mr. Saurabh, you can
Yes, I am
share your
starting.
presentation.
I am starting. Is this presentation visible to everyone?
Yes.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I would like to congratulate the organizers of Chitkara University to organize this national symposium on innovation in teaching and learning practices in higher education. I also belong to Electronics and Communication Engineering Department of our DIT University, and I congratulate the Teaching and Learning Center that has been established in DIT in Electronics and Communication Engineering Department of Chitkara University, so that they can contribute in the direction of higher education as per technical perspective. So we are presenting this work for designing effective strategies for implementing the national credit framework in India. We are presenting a comprehensive analysis which has been made with respect to the national credit framework of different countries with respect to the Indian perspective, and how we can put the contribution to design a better national credit framework in India. So for that, we are suggesting some strategies. With the motivation of our Dean Sir, Professor B.K. Singh, and contribution of my colleague, Dr. Dhruv Chaudhary, I am presenting this work here for the symposium. So these are the content of our presentation. Introduction. Then second, we will discuss the national credit framework in different countries that has been implemented so far. The analysis of NCRF, National Credit Framework implementation in other countries, and this analysis will be quantitative as well as qualitative. Then the suggested strategies to implement NCRF in India. Conclusion and references. As we all are part of the education system, and we are continuously working rigorously to improve the standards of the and the quality of education in our higher education system. So this entire presentation will be related to the betterment of higher education perspective in India. So at the outset of this introduction, as we all are aware that this national credit framework is being proposed by the Ministry of Education, Higher Education in India, and the collaboration of University Grant Commission, UGC, and some framework has already been drafted in a draft report of UGC. We have taken the reference of that draft report, and we are taken out some we can say some key points that are necessary to be brought into the knowledge of every educationist or academician. So, National Credit Framework is a crucial educational framework that aims to standardize the credit system. So, this standardization is necessary so that the at par education system can be provided for all the universities in India, and the student movement or student reallocation can be made easier and more efficient when the student move from one university to another for completion of their respective courses, which is the, we can say, necessity of today's era, or it is also the key point of the national education policy. Second, it also covers the to enhance the quality of higher education in India. So NCRF is a meta framework that consists of three verticals. We are covering from the early education to the higher education and skill of the National Skill Qualification Framework. So the first is National School Education Qualification Framework. So this framework defines the different credits, different timelines for the schooling education system. Next is the National Higher Education Qualification Framework. It defines the timelines and the credit levels for the after schooling system that consists of a graduation, post graduation, and PhD. And next is the National Skill Qualification Framework, which talks about more about the, we can say, skill enhancement or the skill set development of our students and citizens. So the major challenge to implement all this national credit framework is to maintain a standardization among the all three national school qualification, higher education qualification, and skill qualification framework, because the standards can be different. As in school system, we are having an annual, we can say, examination system. In higher education, most of the technical educations are having a semester based examination system, or we can say evaluation system. So the time frames can be different for different verticals, and the we can say mapping of credits can be different for different verticals. So this is a challenge to ensure the standardization across these three verticals. So this paper utilizes a mixed method approach which incorporate both qualitative and quantitative research method, and the research has been done on different education framework or different credit framework of different countries. So following are the key terms for NCRF. First is the credit system, as it talks about the credits. So the credit system is a major parameter of the national credit framework. So nationwide, the draft committee has defined national learning hours in a year. National learning hours basically talks about the total time of the classroom teaching, practical teaching, assignment, test, and all evaluation. This all should be 1200 hours time across a year. So it is not just teaching time. It is also taking the laboratory time. It is also taking extracurricular activities. It is also taking all evaluation methods. So this all should comprise of 1200 hours. So this national learning hours is defined for a year. A minimum of 40 credits may be earned for 1200 hours. And it can vary for different courses. It can vary for different education, we can say, levels. For higher education level, this can be different. For school education level, this can be different. And a minimum 40 credits for a year, minimum 40 credits for a 1200 hours of learning every year can be defined. So in semester-wise system, we can divide this as a 20 credits per semester for 6 months. And the 6 month should at least have this 600 working hours. So if we are working for a 6 semester system, and we are working for a 4-month semester system, then this can be divided equally among the months with respect to a, we can say.
Sorry for interruption, Mr. Saurabh Mishra.
Yes.
We have limited time, so
Okay.
kindly try to wind up
Sure.
in next few minutes. Thank you.
Sure. So as we can see here, the point A defines this credit hours and the total credits earned by the student for the schooling system. This will be 160 credits. By the end of the schooling, this should be completing a 160 credit system. This is the proposed framework for India. By the end of the 3-year bachelor degree course, this should be a student should be completing a 120 credits. This is with respect to a normal 3-year bachelor degree course. For a 4-year bachelor degree course, this can be summarized as 160 credit that we follow in our BTech curriculum also. When a student completes the PhD degree, this must be equivalent to 320 credits. So 320 credits will summarize with respect to proportionate learning hours. Then we are defining the credit levels. With respect to credit hours, we can define credit level also. So here we can see that schooling system, we are having a till grade 5, this will be level 1. From grade 5 to grade 8, this will be level 2. Grade 10 will be level 3 and grade 4 will be level 4. So these 4 levels and 40 credits for each level. So in the previous slide, this was defined as 120 credits. So higher education shall be from credit 4.5 to 8. This is a overlapping of schooling to higher education. So we are having a 4 levels and this can summarize up to 160 credits. If we are starting from 5 to 8. The NCRF credit level for the schooling are up to level 4. For higher education and the vocational training are from 1 to 8. So if a student is completing his education up to the higher education, then this will be starting from level 1 to and it will end up to level 8. This is the proposed framework for Indian educational system. Here it is a comparative study of different countries for national credit framework. These are different, we can say, governing authorities. As for US, it is Higher Education Compliance Alliance, HECA. UK is having credit accumulation and transfer schemes. European countries, likewise, we have done a study of 6 countries for different credit framework. More or less, all the countries are defining their credits based on the values of the workload and the learning outcome of the a particular course. So the credits can be defined with respect to that, and a complete credit for a complete program can also be defined. So this is a summary of this particular slide, that we should define a credit system which will depend on the value of the credit based on the learning outcome, based on the workload, and based on the system that is used for a theoretical concept up to a practical learning. So second, all the countries are having a particular rotation, or we can say transfer of the students among different universities. So this credit framework in all the countries allow to transfer the student from one university to another. So this analysis we have done for 3 countries, US, UK and Australia, national credit framework systems. So this defines the credit system approach, how the systems are approached for defining the credits, credit transferability between the different courses, quality assurance and accreditation by the different accreditation authorities of the respective countries, international compatibility, that the credits from a particular country can be mapped with another country which is following some reference or standard credit framework system, and recognition of prior learning. That means once a credit is being completed, then must be recognized in the higher level of the credit system. It is a qualitative analysis how these 3 countries are implementing their credit framework. So the USA applies a credit hour system, providing a standardization measure of instructional time. Instructional time, that means how a particular learning is engaging the student in a particular classroom directly. So that is a major parameter of this credit system. Then the European countries, UK, utilize the credit accumulation and transfer to assign credit values based on the workload and learning that we have discussed. And Australia, implementation of credit point system which reflects the workload and learning expectation of the course. So in more or less all the 3 countries are having their qualitative, that means quality of the credit framework defines the quality of the work that is being assigned to the student. With respect to Indian NCRF point of view, we are having suggested strategies that must be followed in a due course of time so that the better NCRF framework can be implemented in India. First is the stakeholder collaboration. We are having different stakeholders like different organizations, the higher education system, UGC, and the students. These all stakeholders should be collaborative together to provide a better output in the higher education system. clear credit allocation guidelines. There must be central guidelines which must be provided to all the universities so that the student can have a clear credit system. We are also talking about the ABC Academic Bank of Credits that should be followed. We are trying to
Thank you, Professor Saurabh Mishra. Sorry to interrupt you. So we are running out of time. So your point is well taken to implement a national credit framework
Yes,
for the educators and administrators
yes, sir.
to see for this and improve on it and implement.
Yes, sir. That's
So
the conclusion of the
thank
slide.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Here our aim, of course, is innovative practices used in our teaching and learning uh, routines in higher education. So let
Yes.
me move on to the next presentation. Thank you, Dr. Sora.
Thank you, sir.
You can remove your okay. Let me move to next presentation, paper ID 236. Paper ID 236 is from Mr. Baju Thomas of
Yes, sir.
Ramakrishna Mission Vivekanand Institute, Coimbatore.
Yes, sir.
Are you available? Okay.
Yes, yes.
Please share your presentation.
Okay. Can see, sir? Hello?
Yes, it is visible. Please go ahead.
Okay. My topic is a study on promoting digital education, ensure a transformation in teaching learning among students with disabilities in the 21st century education system. I'm Father Baiju. I'm a research scholar in Ramakrishna Mission, Vivekananda Education Institute, Coimbatore, Tamil Nadu. Introduction. Today's reality is that digital technology are increasingly being used in education. They are used as additional equipment in the field of education and show a new institutional priorities and operational guidance in education development today. To ensure the development of each person who chose a specific education program, it is essential to highlight at the all academic level the need for fundamental changing the accessible education system. Much focus is placed on modern classroom technology and its interaction with the internet. Digital competence thus serve as the creative compound that, when turned into technology resource, aids in ensuring the effective growth of education system. The goal of digital education in the 21st century is to ensure an enormous difference in how students with disability are instructed and trained. Many students with intellectual disabilities show a significant increase in the mood after strengthening their interpersonal and technological abilities. The digital transition within the education setting is drawn by several factors, including the demand for digital skills, increased connectivity, the widespread adoption of digital device application, a preference for the tailored teaching learning techniques among students with disability, and an eagerness to try innovative strategies. The most significant education achievement that has aided the widespread adoption of digital education for students with disability in the modern classroom has been integrating appropriate resources and instruction technology. Educators and their students with disabilities would benefit much from being familiar with the new method. The concept of digital education, a nation's overall development is greatly benefited by educators because it allows citizens to develop personally. Education is a significant sector has been recently substantial goal of growth. Digital technology should be utilized in classroom, but this is up for the discussion. Digital education undergo the most recent development, although it has existed in many forms of a long time. It is obvious that the technology and methods have now used for information transformation are crucial to its development. Since the advent of computers and broadband internet provide a powerful motivation to use them in education activities, they were primarily focused on digital education. Digital transformation in teaching learning. The only ways to get an education today are through the signing of classrooms, sitting a classroom. In today's classroom, participation and collaboration are essential. Technology used in the classroom has significantly impacted how teachers approach instruction. By promoting a society with boundless capacity for collaboration, digital transformation improves students with disability in teaching learning. Students with disability must use a variety of digital devices today. Potential learners are still exploring unique teaching learning environments. Schools must create novel, fresh, and teaching learning approach while also consider the shift, demand, and condition facing students with disability in the 21st century system, high quality education. Teaching learning in digital education. Globally speaking, there has been recently been paradigm shift in the education system, using well-known instructional technology as possible to create a situation for socio-digital involvement. Digital education can be used as a tool for inclusion, but many issues still needs to be resolved before inclusion is fully realized. Some respondents believed that lack of digital capacity is restricting people access to digital education, teaching, learning. The use of digital world to convey education, information, and skill in fresh and creative ways means that it is gradually encroaching into the field of development and education. Digital education for students with disability. Digital education, in that sense, refer to many forms of instruction that heavily use digital media and techniques. Many areas would benefit from the implementation of digital technology. Having robots teach instead of humans is not an improvement. Resources for teachers and students with disability would lead to a more exciting and fruitful classroom setting. Students with a disability benefit from the interactive media like animation and games in their classroom. Teachers can favor this method because of the time it saves them. Students enjoy it since they are already familiar with it and from using tablets, computers, and smartphones in their daily lives. The study aims to determine how teachers at the Education Institute felt about using technology to teach students with disability. Digital technology integration in education. It is generally accepted that today's society children require experience with a wide range of technology in order to develop a responsible individual. Therefore, it is essential for teachers to model appropriate technology and use activity include the use of instructional technology in their classrooms. Schools continue to integrate students with disability despite of legal guarantee that they have the right to public school education. By the concept of equal opportunity in the education movement, all children in the modern digital age should feel safe raising concern in their joining extracurricular organization and make them friends and classmates from different socio-economic classes. Conclusion. Education is essential for development of society and economics. This is why digital technology has been widely incorporated into the national education and training program. Despite the widespread optimism about the internet promise to improve the learning, there is a large digital gap and deficit. The rise of digital education will be profound effect on the direction of education in the future. It is incredible to see how technology has changed the face of education in the 21st century. The number of students with a disability in each state who have access to digital education is a statistical that state school per federal law must track. Futures in the many fields, including the digital age, will be very different as the outcome. Therefore, education infrastructure and teacher and students digital literacy need improvement before the digital transformation can take hold. Changes in scale and format and content are all possible during this age of digital transition. Teachers and students with disability must adjust to the changing nature of learning in the digital age in the 21st century education system. Thank you. Thank you for giving me a chance to present my paper. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Maria, for such a topic which relates with digital education for disabled persons. Thank you very much. Now let me move on to next paper, paper ID 237. Diksha madam, are you available? Paper ID 237 will be presented by Diksha Thakur and Kulbhushan Sharma of Chitkara University. So Diksha, are you available?
Sir, actually, I'm presenting. Kulbhushan Sharma is presenting this.
Okay, Dr. Kulbhushan Sharma, please share your presentation and go ahead.
So, is it visible, sir? My presentation is visible?
Yes, it is very much visible. Please go
Okay.
ahead.
Good afternoon, everybody. So, topic of my presentation is enhancing the research and technical skills of clustered UG and PG learners for analog circuit and layout designing, a mixed teaching methodology. And Diksha Thakur and Kulbhushan Sharma are the two people concerned with this particular research work. So this is the outline of my presentation. First, I'll discuss about the introduction, about to form a basic background of what the problem actually exists and how we resolve that particular problem, and objective of this research work. Then we have proposed a methodology that how we can solve the pre-existing challenges and we can improve the teaching learning process of the students. Then I'll discuss about the results which have been obtained after implementing the adopted methodology, and then conclusions, followed by references which has been cited for present piece of presentation. So first, let me give the basic introduction that what is a teachers-centric approach. In this approach, the teaching process is entirely based on teacher's instruction. Learning of students majorly depends upon planning or premeditated effort and assessment strategy of the teacher. However, this particular approach had certain drawbacks. First, it is a simplex communication. That is, it is one-way communication. And second, that lack of interest is found in this strategy owing to their low active participation. Moreover, absence of discussive environment is there in this particular kind of strategy. And there are certain language barriers. For example, some teachers are more prone to their native language, and sometimes and other students which are from various other parts of the world. So there is a language barrier between due to this geographical barrier, and these certain language barriers are there. Second approach we have, that is student-centric approach, which involves student-student interaction. Now, this particular approach has certain advantages. First advantage is that there is a discussive environment. So students can discuss the problem or any questions can be raised among the students, and then they can give certain ideas and they can solve certain problems. This kind of approach develops computational thinking among students. Further, it increases the interests of the students in the course understanding as well as in the problem solving aptitudes. So another approach is project-based learning. It involves implementation of project by a group of students. And what are the advantages of this particular approach? These students develop a critical thinking aptitude. It builds a strong communication skill among students. Further, it increases the interest of students in the course under consideration. However, certain things which have been found missing in all these approaches, that there has to be some hands-on sessions by the teacher or an inquiry-based learning by the students. And in the PBL learning, there should be some problem solving, real-time problem solving. Some problems should be given to the students after the completion of the course or in between the course, so that these problems, if solved, can benefit the society. Moreover, if at UG level, if the students are being involved or little bit or given some focus on the research, in future their publications which they achieve during BTech may prove to be useful for their higher studies. So with these two objectives, we did our research. So first objective was the study proposes a mixed teaching methodology which combines teacher-centric, student-centric, and PBL approaches with hands-on problem-solving, inquiry-based research activities. So we have we have put in certain activities into the various teaching methodologies and combined all these activities. Second thing which we have done is, which we focused over here, involved active participation of clustered UG, PG students and teacher. Now, only if there are UG students and a teacher is there, certain things are there which are taught to higher classes. For example, certain things are taught to the PG students. Those things are not taught to the UG students. So anyhow, if these UG and PG students are clustered for some hours or for few weeks, obviously the PG students which they have learned higher things can share with the UG students. This was the strategy which we adopted. Now, this is the methodology. Now, our methodology is divided into 3 phases. In the first phase, it is teacher-centric, where a little bit hands-on activities, research activities, and conception and ideation is being done by the teacher, where basics of any subjects are being cleared with the students. Little bit hands-on session, how to use the tools related to the subject, how to make certain circuits. Actually, this particular whole teaching process was applied to a subject known as analog layout design. And over there, you need to know the circuit basics. So teacher is there for providing all the basics and hands-on sessions. And second phase introduced student-centric approach, in which we also focused on the PBL learning. So we gave a project to the student, and in that project we gave a problem. For example, we have biomedical systems in which we required various circuits. Those should work at low power or low noise. So we gave those problems to the student. And at the same time, we also clustered those students with the MTech students. And in the last phase, we have research-centric, where little bit analysis of the project which has been undertaken by the students, results were analyzed, and they were made to think that why these results are like that, why results are linear, why results are exponential, something like that. So that there is a computational thinking. And in addition to this, at the research-centric process, teacher also, supervisor was also assigned, or supervisor was also there, so that he or she can validate the result, the work done by the students in the project. So this is the detailed methodology. So in the teacher-centric, in the first phase, we explained basics of analog layout design course to the UG students. Then hands-on sessions were done, explaining the basics of ethical research and paper writing, and then clustering the UG and PG students, and assigning analog design projects to UG and PG students. These all were the teacher-centric. These tasks were done by the teacher. And in the second phase, circuit designing by PG students. So the PG students were designing the circuits, and the layout was designed by the UG students. Conceptualization of the circuit by PG students, and data curation by the UG students. Discussion among PG and UG students on the implementation of analog layout design. Analysis of results of implemented project by UG and PG students. And then last was the research-centric phase. Over here, original research paper draft writing by UG and PG students. So both were involved, UG as well as PG students, for writing the first draft of the research paper, which research paper, the data they got into the research paper was based on their project. Then investigation and validation of results by the supervisor for checking that whether their results were authentic or not. Then reviewing and editing the original draft written by the UG and PG students and checking its plagiarism. And then it was being sent to, and according to the work, it was sent to the journal or the conference of repute. So what are the various results which we got? So first, let me tell you that the students who were involved in this course were of electronics and communication engineering. Now, electronics and communication engineering is itself divided into 2 verticals. First is IoT and second is VLSI. So we got certain students from ECE department in the 2016, 2017 and 2018, as well as 2019 batch students we got from ECE department under the VLSI verticals. So this red portion indicates the VLSI students, and ECE represents the whole students who were enrolled in different years. So now number of PG students who were clustered with the UG students. So after 4 years, because this particular subject, analog layout design, was taught in the 4th year of the student. Those students who were in the 2016 batch, they reached to fourth year in 2020. Over there, we clustered these PG students with them for this particular analog layout design course, which has been taken under consideration. So in 2020, no clustering was done because we were not having we were not adopting this approach of clustering. So in 2020 there was no students. In 2021 we got one student and we clustered that particular one group with one student of MTech who was in the VLSI vertical. And then in the following years, in the 2022, we clustered two PG students with the two groups of UG students. And then in 2023, we clustered four PG students with the four groups of UG students. So now what actually happened? So this is the graph between your year of placement of UG students and the number of placed students and their placement to enrollment ratio. So what we found that when the clustered students, when the number of PG students was to the clustered UG students was less, then the placement was low and the placement to enrollment ratio was also low. However, when the number of students were of UG were clustered with the PG students, and this number of clustered students from PG increased, the placement of the students increased. Now, what is the reason behind this? The reason is that there are certain skills which are with only with the PG students. A teacher cannot give all the knowledge to the students, UG students, because there are limited hours that he can teach. But PG students, sometimes they have some lectures in which they are free. So they can give their knowledge to the UG students. So we found that these UG students got more skilled when they were engaged with the PG students. And not only this, now we got some publications from the UG students when we collaborated them with the PG students. So in the 2020, we had no publication with the UG students because there were no PG students clustered with them. In the year 2023, we got 4 publications, and in the journals as well as in conference papers. The reason again lies on the fact that the PG students were more engaged with their thesis work. So they were helping the UG students also. So they were giving their top to down knowledge to the UG students, and which also increased their publication count of the UG students. So now this is a conclusion. The proposed mixed teaching methodology combines existing approaches with hands-on problem-solving, inquiry-based and research activities. The placement of UG students in VLSI companies increased by clustering with PG students. Publication of UG students increased by clustering with PG students. So the publication and placement increased when UG students were combined with the PG students. These are the references which have been cited for present piece of presentation. And thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kulbhushan. This was a wonderful work on research integrated teaching and learning practices. So over to Dr. Vijay Lakshmi. Over to Dr. Vijay Lakshmi for your feedback and comments.
Sir, thank you for the wonderful presentation. Especially bringing UG and PG faculty, like students together, and then bringing a research approach is a good idea. And I have a question like, so when you say UG, what semester students you are connected to the PG students? And then what was their challenge, like what was your challenges to connect to the level of PG students, the thinking of UG students?
Yes, ma'am. Actually, the students who were enrolled in 2016, they will come into the 4th year in the 2020. That is their 4th year, or you can call it the 8th semester or 7th or 8th semester, we call it. So what actually during 3 years, they learned very small basics so that they can do a higher level course, because this analog layout design is a company-based course. Because we need certain skills from our semiconductor companies or skillful person who can give them knowledge. So, and to learn this particular subject, you need the basics of other subjects, because all subjects are interrelated. So in the 4th year, when our teaching was based only teacher-centric. So what we faced that students were doing not using their brains. They were only implementing the pre-existing circuits which were available on the internet or somewhere else. No new circuits were implemented by them. No new layouts were made by them. The reason for that was they were not involved in the research, or they were not thinking like for real time problems. They were not having an aptitude of problem solving aptitude. They were not having a problem solving aptitude. Now we faced this challenge in 2016 batch. In the 2017 batch, what we did, we thought of an idea that we should cluster these some groups of UG students with the PG students. So because PG students are already engaged in their research work, because in their thesis. So because all the time they don't do their work, there are certain 2 or 3 hours in a day where PG students are free. So we thought of engaging that part of their time with the UG students. So they gave their knowledge that how to write a research paper, what are the various tools of research paper. For example, how to plot, how to analyze the plots. Certain things were done by the PG students. Fortunately, what happened, the UG students also learned the research tools, research writing skills, how to write the introduction, how to write the methodology, results, how to justify the results. All these things were built in the UG students. So this was the whole strategy which we followed.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Vijayalakshmi and Dr. Kulbhushan Sharma.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir.
So next we move to paper ID 238. Paper ID 238 will be presented by Dr. Debanjali Roy of KIIT University, Bhubaneswar, on exploring American literature, a technological mediated journey. So, Dr. Roy, are you available?
Yes, sir. Sir, am I audible?
Yes. Dr. Roy, we have only 8 to 10 minutes for your presentation. Kindly try to...
Sure, sir. I'll definitely try my best. May I share my screen, sir?
Yes, now you can share.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Sir, I believe Dr. Sharma needs to stop his share so that...
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Kulbhushan, please exit your presentation.
Okay.
It's done, sir.
Okay. Is my screen visible, sir?
Yes, very much visible.
Thank you so much. At the very onset, I would like to thank Chitkara University, especially the Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering, for conducting this national symposium on innovations in teaching and learning practices in higher education. And I have tried to keep I will definitely try to keep my presentation very short. And I have tried to focus on the aspects which are underlined by the central theme of the symposium. So I have chosen a topic which is very different from the ones which have been talked about by my esteemed colleagues from, from the very beginning of the technical session. So my presentation is titled Exploring American Romantic Poets, a Technology-Mediated Journey, which concerns the use of technology and more specifically the use of artificial intelligence technology in the field of higher education and more specifically in the field of postgraduate classrooms of English literature. Now, there is a common idea that literature classes at the higher education level, they are conducted mostly through teacher-centered lectures, discussion seminars, and occasionally poster designs and audiovisual presentations. But there has to be a revision of these age-old perspectives, as as was underlined by Dr. Angara as well, who was talking about the integration of virtual reality in the classroom setup. So this presentation of mine takes into account some real examples, some real classroom activities that I have been practicing with my students in postgraduate classes of English literature, which takes into account the blending of virtual reality in a classroom setup using the theories of constructivist learning. Now, as I was talking about the need for revision of the perspectives, this reconceptualization was ushered in by the technological advancements and more specifically with ChatGPT becoming a common name almost. Now, we talk about Web 4.0 and education, and this increased interdependency between technological intervention and human agency was once again ushered in, was once again triggered by the COVID-19 pandemic, which compelled not only the higher education setup, but also the primary, secondary, and all the tertiary educational setups to acknowledge and advocate for the necessity of pedagogical mutations, addressing needs of a rapidly changing learning environment. Now, as I said, that my paper concerns the pedagogy of English literature teaching. So we have to keep in mind two things. One, the intrinsic characteristic nature, the feature of teaching English literature, which once again has a lineage of its own, a pedagogical lineage of its own. And the second one is the theoretical tenet, which underpins its pedagogical framework. That once again initiates debates among educators regarding whether to assimilate technology in a classroom instruction or to avoid it. Now, as I said already, that the COVID-19 pandemic, it left no choice to the academicians and the educators who actually had to, be it a literature classroom or science.
Sorry for interruption, Dr. Rai. It is
Yes.
still showing title slide only. Are you moving the slides?
Okay. I get it. So I will do this. Is it visible now, sir? Like, are the slides visible now?
Yes.
Yes.
Now it is slide number 3. You can go ahead.
Slide number 3. Okay, sir. So I will not be making it a full screen. Okay. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Yeah, as I was saying, ushered in by the COVID-19 pandemic, there was no choice left among the educators and academicians, be it at the primary, secondary, or the higher education levels, who had to, be it a literature classroom or a science classroom or an engineering classroom. There had to be a metamorphosis of the very concept of classroom itself. And this presentation, therefore, explores the possibilities of an AI-driven class of English literature. It's basically a case study of a 2-hour session, which I have explored in detail, in my write-up as well. So I will not be taking that time to focus more on that, but I'll be briefly I'll briefly talk about the major points. So it was a 2-hour long session on American Romantic poetry, and this entire class was conducted using 2 tools. Both of them are free tools. One is the Google Jamboard, which is not an AI-driven tool, and the other one is Google Verse by Verse, which is a thorough AI-driven tool. So I believe some of my colleagues are familiar with Jamboard and Google Verse by Verse. Jamboard, this was basically the objective and outcome of the session. So the objective was to co-create knowledge related to American Romantic poetry through activity-based learning grounded on constructivist principles. Now, although I mentioned constructivist principles, the other theory which was taken into account was, of course, the collaborative learning theory. Now, at the end of the session, the learners were expected not only to have a comprehensive idea about the phenomenon of romanticism, but they will be able to critically analyze different poems, evaluate stylistic difference, and co-create a poem. Now, all these action words that I'm using, analyze, evaluate, have a comprehensive idea, these are based on Bloom's taxonomy, or more specifically, the revised Bloom's taxonomy. Now, I will not be focusing more on the constructivist principle here, but I would take all my colleagues here to this particular slide, which is a sample jam session. So after a warm-up session in American Romantic poetry, the students were demonstrated as to how to use the Jamboard, which basically simulates a whiteboard or a blackboard situation. So what happens here is, so the students, they drop their individual ideas in the form of text boxes or sticky notes in this particular jam session. So they are co-creating and collaboratively learning with the help of AI technology here. Now, the main aim of this activity was to enable these literature students, who most often have very limited technical knowledge, to acquaint them with these technological tools which are available That's number one. Number two, engage them in an activity which is both creative as well as, caters to their higher order thinking skills. And the third one is learning collaboratively, learning to create a knowledge, to construct a knowledge within a classroom space. Now, from this guided activity, where I as a facilitator helped them with the activity, they were given an entire jam page to design. So the slide that you are seeing right now is a one which was designed by a couple of my students. So this was also a group activity with a group of 5 students. Now, our postgraduate class essentially is not more than 30 students. So, they were made into groups of 5, and they created jam pages, which you can see they were given certain topics, they chose from there and they presented it. This is another group activity. As you can see, there's a comparison between the British Romantic poetry and the American Romantic poetry. So on one hand, we are looking at the learning levels which are underlined by Bloom's taxonomy, and which has, of course, a major role to play, especially in, or rather as underlined by the National Education Policy of 2020, that, collaborative learning or learning with technology through activities, this is, or multidisciplinarity, if I may. So that is going to play a major role henceforth. Now, this was the phase 1 where I used the Google Jamboard, which I assume some of you use. The second one was Google Verse by Verse. Now, this is once again a discipline-specific software. This Google Verse by Verse, it allows a learner to choose their muses, for example, like Emily Dickinson, or people like Mark Twain, etc., and they co-create a poem with AI. So it's basically a poem which is being written by the students and the AI itself. And this process was also conducted from guided activity to independent production, because, of course, in the Bloom's taxonomy level of learning, the sixth stage, the final autonomous creation of learners, is something that we all should target to, be it in science, be it in technology, or be it in literature. So this is basically how the interface of Google Verse by Verse looks like. It allows you to select up to 3 poets. So this is a sample. Now, this is something I'm really happy to share with all of you present here. Now, this poem is co-written by artificial intelligence and the students. So, as literature students, they're expected to write a poem, to write creatively, to think creatively. But this is very beautiful, where they are also understanding how this technological integration is radically changing the very notion of education itself. So this poem, it's inspired along the stylistic lines of Edgar Allan Poe, Robert Frost, and Emily Dickinson. Now, you might ask me that why at all the use of technology where they can write a poem themselves? Now, the point that I'm trying to make over here is, when you look at this interface, so the students, they have to have a very clear idea about what kind of writing did Cullen Bryant or Dickinson or Dunbar or Emerson, all of these people were writing. So with a pre-existing knowledge, they had to build a new knowledge of their own, which once again corroborates with autonomous learning. So my target was, of course, fulfilled. And I would, if you allow me just 1 minute, may I have just 1 minute so that I can share a small-ish video? Sir, ma'am, do I have 1 minute?
Okay, you can go ahead.
Okay. Sir, ma'am, sir, is my screen visible?
Is love confined?
Yes.
So this
Yes.
This is actually the class presentation, where after creating, they were presenting.
Within the parameters of a cage, and it's the cry of one's heart.
So I just wanted to, kind of demonstrate this, small thing. Once again, I end my presentation here. Thank you once again for giving me this opportunity to talk about it. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rai. That was wonderful. It was a unique experience and
Thank
unique
you,
way
sir.
of teaching learning methodology.
Thank you so much, sir, for your kind words.
Dr. Vijay Lakshmi, you want to say?
Yeah, I just want to appreciate Debanjali Roy for the efforts, because I'm not into the literature, and I understand poems, but I don't know the efforts and then difficulties of the students in getting into that level. It's a good idea to intervene the technology. That's a wonderful work. So I learned things from you. So thank you for giving me opportunity to be part of this, so that we can learn out of many people efforts. So
Ma'am,
it's a good
thank
effort.
you so much. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
So that is the basic purpose of symposium, that we are learning from each other when we are
Yes,
far
sir.
away.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thanks a lot, and we will be in touch afterwards also. So the last presentation of
Thank you, sir.
this session is paper ID 231 by Dr. Pooja. Dr. Pooja, are you available?
Yes, sir.
So
I'm
I'm
available
sorry for
here.
the delay. There was some technical problem at your end in
Sir,
the
I'm so
beginning.
sorry due to some technical issues. I have lost my connection previously. Sorry for the inconvenience.
No problem. Now you can share your presentation.
Sure, sir.
Go ahead.
Yes, Pooja, you can share your screen.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Is it
Yeah.
visible?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Dr. Pooja Swarup Saxena, one of the co-author of this paper. Thanks for giving me the opportunity of presentation. The title of our research paper is Beyond Traditional Classroom Boundaries, Adopting Problem and Project-Based Learning for a Student-Centric Education Revolution. Basically, the objective of the paper is to present an in-depth analysis of problem and project-based learning, its implementation strategies through the use of a case study that we did in an international faculty development program, which was organized by Teaching Learning Center at DIT University, Dehradun, in collaboration with the Indo-Universal Collaboration for Engineering Education, that is IUCEE. So as we know that teaching pedagogy plays an important role in education system. It refers to a pedagogy that is centered towards a teacher who gives the most meaningful course information. In this approach, the teacher has a large responsibility of giving correct information to the students in a right way, irrespective of their teaching styles. The teacher can give a clear understanding of how the students are doing concerning their learning and also be an effective model for the target language. So there are 5 types of teaching learning theories: behaviorism theory, constructivism theory, cognitivism theory, humanism, and socio constructivism theory.
Hello, Pooja madam.
Yes, ma'am.
Your slides are not moving.
It's, uh,
You are in the first slide. Like I'm seeing. Okay, now it's behaviorism theory. Correct.
correct, ma'am?
Yeah.
Is it visible, ma'am? Behaviorism theory. So I've already told there are 5 types of theory. So first one is behaviorism theory. Basically, this is an idea that learning can be improved by changing environmental signals. In this perspective, a great emphasis is on the learning environments and instructional practices. It also emphasizes on the potential contribution that outside stimuli and visible behavior may make to the learning process. The second one is constructivism theory. In this theory, main emphasis is on the fact that learning is dynamic, individual process can be influenced by students' prior knowledge, life experiences, etc. It is a theory of learning that was developed in the late 20th century in the field of psychology and education. By highlighting the active role that students play in their creating their own knowledge, and understanding of the world. It challenges established conceptions about learning. Instead of just passively receiving information, learners actively engage with their surroundings, draw from existing knowledge and experience, and use cognitive processes to generate new meanings. Next is cognitivism theory. In this theory, students actively create their own knowledge by arranging and rearranging it in line with their mental models. The mental skills necessary for learning, such as problem solving, memory, attention, and information processing, basically, these are highlighted by the cognitivism view of learning. Cognitivism holds that gaining knowledge is a mental process involving higher order cognitive abilities. Next one is humanism. The main objective of humanism theory is to enhance the intrinsic motivation, a love of learning, and the growth of critical thinking abilities. It is an educational strategy enters the learning process on the student. It emphasizes how crucial is to take into account the unique needs, preferences, and objective of every student. And the last one is socio-constructivism theory. This theory is based on the fact that learning is a social and collaborative process, and knowledge is created via interaction with individuals within a cultural or social environment. Socio-constructivism, in contrast to constructivism, places more emphasis on the social dimensions of learning while adhering to its guiding principles. So, based on these theories, we have organized a international faculty development program on problem and project based learning, that is P2BL, and design thinking, with an intent to train the faculty of School of Engineering and Technology, that is SOET. So that this program was divided into 3 phases. So in first phase, we have prepared the participants for systematically designing and applied synergized P2BL and DT concepts to prepare a conceptual framework for their subject or courses they were involved in teaching, drafting and deploying synergized aspects of P2BL and DT in their teaching and curriculum. In this phase, participants learned and applied synergized P2BL and DT concepts to prepare a conceptual framework for the subject or courses they were involved in teaching. To around 31 participants have participate in this FDP. Then the second phase was conducted at 3 different locations. This second phase was organized from 2nd August to 5th August 2022. In this phase, we have conducted 3 parallel sessions. And in these sessions, participants were encouraged to set up or propose their micro or mini projects in their respective laboratories for demonstration. Participants were also given presentations of designed micro and mini projects they have planned to include their subjects in future. And in the last phase 3, which is basically review of effectiveness, in this phase, Dean of SOET along with HOD of concerned departments reviewed the effectiveness of implementation at mid and the end of semester, and following observations are made. Some faculties and students should be rewarded for good projects for motivation after review cycle. Interdepartmental or inter-institution competitions be organized to promote it at a higher scale, bigger scale. And some innovations should be incorporated in every workshop and refine the process every time. So after completing this phase, we have also taken feedback analysis on IFDP P2BL. As I have shown with the help of pie chart, these are the pre-FDP perceptions. As you have seen here that most of the participants joined the FDP through their personal interest, that is 61.3%, and 19.4% of the total participations have participated to consider P2BL and DT for using in their course and subjects. These are the analysis in the form of pie chart, how many participants are there from the different engineering background. So maximum participant is from 38.1%, that is from mechanical engineering. And these are the feedback analysis that we have taken before and after the FDP. So with the help of this bar graph, you can see that on the base of the scale of 10, we have conducted this feedback. So 23.8% faculty members before joining are strongly concerned to join this FDP. And this is post FDP perceptions. After completing the FDP, we had also take the feedback analysis on the scale of 10. After this exercise that we have done in the form of FDP, we had made a conclusion that P2BL explored the enormous advantages of integrating these instructional approaches in higher education methods of P2BL, which include locating real world problems, developing genuine projects, and promoting environments where students are at the center of the learning process, were taught to the faculty members during the course of the program. These are the references that we have taken account into this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pooja. Dr. Vijay Lakshmi, you
Yeah.
want to say something?
Okay. Thank you very much for the wonderful presentation, madam.
Thank you, ma'am.
I have just one question here. After
Yes.
attending this workshop, how many people have adopted this P2BL into their courses, and what is an impact of that in students' learning?
Ma'am, after completing this FDP on P2BL, most of the faculty members are very encouraged to apply these concepts in their teaching and learning processes. And we have also planned to again organize an FDP using these results also, where we can again take the same participants and to know how they affect the students with these teaching theories also.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Pooja. Thank you each and everyone who is present here. Thank you all who have presented their work. And thank you, Dr. Vijay Lakshmi, for your valuable time as the session chair. I would like to share a soft copy of, just a moment, soft copy of certificate of appreciation.
Yes, sir, I have received it. No,
Okay,
just
you
now I
have
have
received
received.
it. Thank you for that. You will be
Thank you,
receiving
sir.
by an email. And with this, there were total 8 presentations out of 11 who had registered were presented here on various topics on teaching, learning methodologies and pedagogical features. And most of them presented work which they had done and implemented. So, Dr. Vijay Lakshmi, your concluding remarks?
Sir, all 8 papers were attempted nicely with the thought, but some needs a rigorous approach of evaluating the effectiveness of their studies, because attempting and applying is a good thought, but how it is reached, because ultimately reachability to the students and their learning perspective we have to measure. So in some of the papers I suggest that they have to adopt the mechanism to measure the impact of the new approaches into the students learning enhancements. Otherwise, all the presentations were excellent and new thoughts were being presented. So it's an for me new learning from several papers. So it's a good idea to have such symposiums, sir. So because it's a platform where we can interact and learn from each other.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you.
So I could have invited you over lunch, but it's a virtual platform.
Yes,
Now
no
it is
issues.
so it is lunchtime. So all the participants and everyone can enjoy their own lunch. Of course,
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
our symposium will continue with the offline sessions and valedictory at the end. Thank you, each and everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks a lot for your participation.
Come on, 130. Oh, 130 view. Let's see, 130 is one. Hmm? That is small is something I know. You need to do it. When you clear on the thing, you always see that you not see it, go to home. But just in case you do it, you not see it, you go to home. You need to do it. Would that be 11 o'clock? 10 minutes to 11. When you was already in meeting, I seen them will use. Hmm? Right, that's what you have to click on the table first. When you click on the table, then you tell you clear the table. When you clear the table, you see, you always see the table two. You get to do. Pripodam Mrs. Moya. Pripodam Mrs. Moya. Thank you so much for your time. This is the end of the first section of our symposium. We look forward to interacting again.